Welcome to the RSP Film Room, the time of the year that I know I have looked forward to the most, which is getting the chance to watch some tape with my buddy Mark Schofield over at TD Wire. Mark, always nice to have you here.
Matt, always a pleasure to be here. I know we've been excited about this for a while. Excited about who we're going to watch today. Excited about who we're going to watch early next week. Two somewhat polarizing quarterback prospects that we're going to kick things off with. I know we have different opinions on this guy we're going to watch today for reasons that were unlocked in my mind driving back from North Carolina with my family when my kids were sort of screaming in the back seat. So we could talk about that in a bit, but excited to be here, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that polarizing player is indeed Zach Wilson. And I'll just start off and say, do I see Zach Wilson as a player who could be a starter in the NFL? Absolutely. Do I think that he's worth the number 2 pick overall? Absolutely not. But that's where I see it. And I think as we get into this, I'll let Mark tell you guys what he thinks about Zach as we get through this. And I think it'll become abundantly clear, where we probably differ on the player in some areas and where we feel the same, but maybe how we value that differently.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, look, he's my QB3. There's a guy that I think is QB2 that I would draft before Zach Wilson in a heartbeat. There's a guy that's my QB2 that has gone through an interesting pre-draft process, to say the least. We're now on, I think, the third wave of strange and odd and refutable criticisms about Justin Fields. First it was the reads, then it was the love. Now it's the baseball background, which, okay, I guess that's the third criticism here. But when I see guys like Patrick Mahomes and Matthew Stafford and Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray have great NFL careers or start off on great NFL careers with baseball backgrounds, and we love off-platform, off-structure, throws from a strange platform, that's an odd one to me. But enough about Justin Fields, whom I love. This is Zach Wilson, my QB3. And I think there's a lot of Baker to Zach Wilson, which, as you see Matt nod, that's the realization that I came to coming back from North Carolina. It's like, I know now why he doesn't like Zach Wilson as much. It's the Baker. It's the Baker part of it. I think Wilson is on the low end, bad Baker. On the high end, Baker Mayfield with chef tendencies, perhaps. And so we'll get into that. But he's a fun quarterback to watch for good and bad reasons.
And by the way, if you're new to this RSP Film Room because you've learned about my work recently, being on a lot of different podcasts and a lot of new podcasts, and you've heard the Baker Chef, comparisons. I've cited Mark, but now you get to see the dude's face and you can hear his analysis, on a regular basis because we've
not let's see my face is a good thing. I mean, we can be honest here. I have a radio voice here, kids, but yeah,
Well,
I do like the Baker Chef analogy.
I do too. I think you did a great job with that, and it's one that I think will, from the Monday morning you wrote that thing, or Friday morning you wrote that thing, I don't remember which, that it was immediately going to be an article that was going to be cited and recited and recited for a very long time.
Well, that's what we like to do. That's what we like to do. Create some stuff that sticks.
Exactly. And that definitely is sticky. So let's go ahead and get started here. We got our first play. Looks like we got the Navy game.
Yeah, we're gonna open things up, I think, with 2 throws from Navy. This is one. This is a throw that I like from Wilson. This is a throw that I like. Sort of anticipation throws are one of those things you like to see. This is that from him. Opens left, hitch, ball out on the comeback route against the off coverage, which he exploits. This is one of those time and rhythm throws that I love to see from quarterbacks. And what I like about this is if you start to think about where defenses are trending, I've thought a lot recently about the idea of what Kyle Kogan, who's a defensive coordinator in Kansas, head coach of a football team, a high school football team, he talks a lot about what we call slinting the fits, which is how are you going to play 2 high structures but still defend the run against RPOs? And one of the ideas is if the quarterback opens to you as an outside linebacker, you play the pass. If he opens away, you play the run. Well, here, quarterback opens one way, you see that guy sort of, they're not splitting the fits here, but this is just sort of the concept where he opens left, then comes right. And if defenses do start sort of slinting the fits, that linebacker that he opens away from is going to try to get down to the run fit, and it's going to even be a bigger window. But here, timing, rhythm, anticipation, hitch, ball out. This is Zach Wilson, I think, doing some of the little things that maybe he's not really known for, but I think he does a good job of it here.
Okay, so let me ask you a question about this. So, say for the layman, and they learned anticipation recently, and they see a play like this, and they're saying, "But I thought when I watch TV and I listen to commentators talk about anticipation, that the ball's coming out before the top of the break or the top of the stem, and on this play, the ball's coming out and the receiver's already made his break. Why would you label this anticipation? You know, when you're asking from a layman's perspective, who might have just learned that."
Yeah, I mean it's the concept that as he hits here and the ball is coming out, it's timed up with the break. And so he hits drop step, hitches, ball is coming out. And this is one of those routes where I'm okay with it. You know, if you're saying that anticipation is the ball has to be out before the break, this is a route where he's working back down the vertical step. It's not a route where he's breaking to the outside or deep. On those, yeah, the anticipation has to be ball out before the break because you're either maintaining or gaining depth on the route. Here, he's working back down the stem. So he's going to at least maintain that separation he has on the break as he works back down from the defender. And so the anticipation throw here is ball is out as he's working back towards you. Now, if he waits to see this, then you're going to have a situation where that corner can drive on the throw a bit, and then you might get yourself into trouble. So here, it's timing, it's rhythm, and there's enough anticipation on this route concept for the structure of this route. If he were throwing again an out, a corner, a post, then you'd like to see it come out a little bit more because ball's going to have to travel longer, going to be a bigger distance, and that defender's going to have more time to jump that route.
Excellent. Great explanation for that. Thank you, Mark. All right. So then, of course, we have this view. We've already seen it, though. I think.
Yeah. I mean, you can spin forward through this. Some of the plays this is another play against Navy. This is one of those moments where you will probably see this play or a play like it during his draft highlight package. And I love it. And I like it about him because of the arm aggression. But it is a throw sort of into pseudo double coverage. This is a post corner type concept here. He sees that post safety in the middle of the field is flat. He sees right here, that safety in the middle of the field on the end. He looks like he's going to be on the corner route, but he also sees that he's flat too. And so he knows that post route on the right is going to get over the top of him, defenders with outside leverage. So he can take that risk. He can take that calculated chance to throw that post route over that safety's head because he knows that safety, once he turns, he's not going to get depth. He's not going to get back and make a play on this football. And so it's an aggressive, but a reasonably aggressive decision. There will be some decisions we'll talk about that maybe are too aggressive. But here, I like this one. I like the arm aggression that you see here from Zach Wilson. I understand why he makes this throw. It ends up, you look at it, the result, and you're like, oh, well, he's throwing it to double coverage. I get why he makes this throw. It's a calculated, reasonable risk, and I appreciate that he took that chance with the football.
I agree. I think it's a very logical throw. And this is the type of logical throw that I think a lot of people, when they characterize a player as reckless, don't consider as well as they should. Just because you identify that there's double coverage doesn't mean that it's not an exploitable double coverage.
Right.
And that's exactly what the way you describe that. And I like that he throws it high. The ball arrives high, gives the receiver really the only chance to get it. It leverages what the receiver has, in terms of his physical advantage over the coverage that he's facing. So good on him. All right. So this is that play, I have a feeling. Yes, this is that play.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a great play. This is a great play. But this is one of those process versus results moments that has given me pause about Zach Wilson. From this moment, from right here until he releases his throw, it's great. I love the sort of pocket movement. I love, again, the aggression to take the shot. You've got sort of your guy has a step. You step around the pressure. You step up. You take the throw. Okay. But look at the middle of the field. And I know that this is a flea flicker type of design. It's a trick play kind of design. I included the end zone angle, which you'll see in a second. He's not looking at the middle of the field. And it may just be the simple fact that sometimes, look, when you have these plays dialed up, you expect to get this little delay throwback element. You expect it to be wide open. You've practiced it being wide open. It's always wide open. You're not even expecting to look at the middle of the field because you know it's always been there. And so maybe it's not in his mind that I need to check the post route of the middle of the field. But the post route of the middle of the field is absolutely wide open. And so it's one of those process versus results discussion that I think is necessary with Zach Wilson. What he does here is a great play and a great result, but is that something he can consistently repeat and execute on in the NFL, or is thrown to the post route of the middle of the field a much safer, more reasonable decision and a walk-in touchdown as opposed to, first and goal at the 5? Like, that's my concern with it. I love the aggression and all of that, and I get it, and I understand having been in that moment where you've got that play dialed up all week. You're excited to call it. You get a chance to call it. Like, we had a similar design, an A throwback at Wesleyan where, first time we called it, it had been wide open all the time. Corner's sitting on it, so it goes for a middable gain. But you're expecting something different. Why? It was the post route an option for him, and if so, why didn't he look at it?
Right. And so then the other question, too, that I would have, and I think that's so well explained, Mark, but also he has a step on the guy. Is this a conscious decision to throw back shoulder, or is it a ball that he underthrew?
Yeah. I mean, my guess is it's a ball that he underthrew. I don't think he's consciously trying to throw this back shoulder with a guy's step. I think the pressure, the step around in the pocket, he just didn't get enough on it. He sees as he's resetting, it almost looks like his lower body mechanics kind of work against him here because he doesn't quite have sort of hip torque and turn through it. So I feel like it's more underthrow than anything else. And he still has a very good arm. I think there are guys in this class with better arm strength, natural arm strength, as opposed to Wilson, who I think has to hitch and, crow hop into some throws. But it's the process thing. And what's interesting is, it's still a good play. Like so many of his plays that we will talk about today that will be shown when he gets drafted to the Jets at 2 overall, they're good plays, good results, but there's stuff to be sort of concerned about still.
Right. And I think that's where the, we're at a line where you could either have him at, and we'll just make it simple. You could either have him like in your top 3 to 4 because you feel like those things that are concerns he will get better at and that or aren't as major concerns, or you could be a little bit more you might be nitpicky about him, and it could either be that you're being too nitpicky about him, or you may look at it and say, well, this is kind of where the line is, where between a guy who's going to be a good starter and a guy who may be looking over his shoulder in 3 years. And
it's important to remember, I was on the Locked On Falcons podcast recently with Aaron Freeman, who I love.
Me too.
And he said, look, we're going to be talking about quarterbacks here. We're going to get nitpicky, but there's a reason for that. It's because when we're talking about guys that might go 2, 3, 4 in the draft, you're going to come down to like splitting hairs over differences in their games. And when you're talking about, handing the keys of a franchise to somebody, you want to like really get down into it. If Zach Wilson were somebody we were talking about, like we used to do years ago with, this is a guy that might not get drafted, but here's why he might sort of stick in the NFL. You might look at this and say, look, I like the arm talent. We can just move on. It's a nice play, whatever. When you're talking about drafting the kid second overall, like this sort of nitpicky stuff, it does matter.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at, like, say you're a team, the New York Jets, you've got 3 quarterbacks graded as like elite quarterback prospects, Lawrence, Fields, Wilson. What's going to be the difference between 2 and 3 on your board? It might be nitpicky stuff like this.
Yeah, and I'm with you because to me it's about it comes down to 5 to 7 plays every game. And to me it's like, and the 5 to 7 plays are usually a way of figuring out a player's tendencies and using it against them and seeing if they can make the adjustment. Well, he always goes to this guy when they execute this play. Can he look at the coverage and not be automatic about it in practice and actually make the adjustment? And when you look at a play like this, your answer might be, I don't know if he can.
And this is, to get back to the Baker versus Schefter, this is a Baker kind of play.
Yes.
This is what we're doing. This is the route I'm throwing. This is where the ball is supposed to go. Now, I think Wilson has some chef sides to him, but a chef on this play might be saying, maybe that post route isn't the progression, coach. but it's wide open in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And I got to throw that. Like,
Yeah. And that's the thing. And the other thing that you notice is that little crow hop, which
Yep.
you have to bring the crow into this, but here.
Yep.
So when you have him moving like this, one of the things I notice about him is that he kind of rushes when he sets his feet, and we're going to see some plays that are more exaggerated versions of this,
Yep.
where the accuracy is really lacking, and it comes down to when he's dealing with pressure.
Yep.
Now this is a fine throw.
I love this throw from him.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to include this one because this might be one of my favorite throws of his, and it's an incompletion. But I absolutely love it. I love where he puts it. I love how he plays this. I love how he reads this. Like, this, I think, is Zach Wilson at his best. And he's got a defender at his face, and he puts this throw in an absolutely perfect spot. Low, shielded away from the defender in a perfect position for this guy to just catch, cradle, and complete the play.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. I think that's a fantastic example.
Here we get, this is the chef side, and this is a great example of how his athleticism, I think, can break down defensive structure. Because Texas State is in sort of cover two here with two deep safeties. He slides to the right. You'll see that safety over to the left side of the field, that safety right there. Start to see him move. Start to see Wilson move. So he sort of slides towards the middle of the field just a bit. And how Wilson, A, sees this, and B, makes this throw is special. I mean, that's special.
It's interesting. Yeah, because, you look at this, and now, and it's important because you might look at this and say, well, how many times is that really going to happen in the NFL? But the answer is the fact that he sees it means that he probably is going to see other things that can be that one play that can make a difference.
This reminds me a lot. Stafford had a throw this year. I forget which team it was against, where it was a similar verticals concept. And that route along the boundary came open late in the down when you're thinking in most situations, the quarterback can't make that throw at this point. He just can't. It's too far downfield. It's too late in the play. He can't make this throw, but Stafford did. And here's Wilson doing that. But Stafford was throwing it after sliding to the right side of the field. Here, Wilson sliding to the right, but then throwing left and seeing this to the left. And so maybe this is a once a season type of play, making this throw under pressure. But the fact that he could see it, like you said, Matt, makes it something he probably could see more than one time a game, a season in the National Football League. And so I love this play.
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate this play. But just for the sake of drama and the sake of for us to play devil's advocate with it,
yep.
My fear would be, or the fear that I could see someone saying would be, is that in the NFL, how often will we see a safety do this? And how often will we see an NFL safety recover a little faster right here?
Yeah, absolutely.
And be able to cut this off.
NFL, and NFL safeties probably play this a lot better, although, the Baltimore Ravens got to a Super Bowl thanks to bad safety play a couple of years ago.
True.
More than a couple of years ago now. So, oh my gosh, I'm old, man. But the other thing that I do like about this is, going back to that previous play, he's also got the route on the right side.
Yeah.
It's that athleticism to sort of break down defensive structure that he can throw the comeback there too. Maybe it's a situation where he gets to the NFL. The first time he tries to make this exact throw, it gets picked, and he says, "Okay, well, now I've learned I can't get away with that." It's part of the reason why you do hear the Mahomes comparisons, which I don't think are accurate, but it's that process of figuring out what you can and cannot get away with at the next level that Wilson's going to have to go through. And maybe he learns eventually that, this throw isn't possible in the NFL, but the fact that he had the vision to at least see it and try it here makes me think that, look, maybe he tries it and gets away with it, but if he doesn't, his athleticism and his arm talent will allow him to break down defensive structures and then now throw this comeback route on the right side.
Yeah, and I would say that maybe this is a good example of a play that Johnny Manziel would have made. And I think that, to me, Johnny Manziel is somewhat the precursor to Patrick Mahomes. Doesn't necessarily mean that he was as good as Patrick Mahomes or would have been as good as Patrick Mahomes is, but there were elements of his game that he saw the field in a way, in a style of play that you could say really the real precursor to Patrick Mahomes, who was a quality NFL player, is Matt Stafford. Right. So you would say Matt Stafford, Manziel kind of stretched the bounds a little further, but just didn't have the emotional aptitude and health to be able to play the game in the NFL and be a professional. But you see a little bit of this here too, and it's about sometimes when you're unconventional or seeing things in an unconventional way, how well can you adjust and understand your boundaries and limits in a new environment? And the NFL will be that for him. If he can figure that out quickly, that could be nice for him. So, yeah, I appreciate that. That's a nice, we can all around look at that play, positive, potential negative, potential positive as well in terms of what you would project forward.
And now here's an instance where this is something I do think he has to clean up. There are moments where Wilson needs to learn to come off of a concept. And this is one of them. This is a 4th down situation. You've got the under from 1 to the left. You've got the vertical route from 2 in the slot. Both of these routes are covered. And so he has to learn, okay, at this point, I'm not going to be able to throw those. I have to look elsewhere. Because if he looks elsewhere and that's that route you're circling there, that post route, that's wide open. It's wide open. And he holds on to this concept on the left side far too long. At this point, with everybody sort of lurking and with that safety capped over the top of that, you got to come off it, come to the middle of the field. Instead, he doesn't, hangs on it too long, the pocket collapses, and he misses an opportunity here. Now, he trips over his own guy, but before that, he should have moved his eyes, moved to the middle of the field and thrown this route in the middle of the field, but he doesn't. And this is a bit of a concerted process from him because there are times where he locks onto these concepts and doesn't come off of them quickly enough.
Yeah, this is one where you just pivot, and it'll be there.
There's nothing in the middle of the field. And once he sees that safety to the left cap that route, he should know middle of the field right now, it's wide open.
Yeah.
It's wide open. And so you've got an opportunity to make a throw at the middle of the field. I know it's 4th and 4. I know you want to get that under route. But once you see that under route is capped by that underneath, hook curl defender who's going to help take that away, come to the middle of the field. Just you've got a chance to make a play there.
Yeah, because pre-snap, you look at this and you see, okay, here's the high defender right here, and you have no high defender on this side. So you should be even thinking pre-snap.
Yeah.
You should be thinking, I'm looking here, but if nothing is open, I'm going for this post right away, and that's where I'm pivoting right away, and I'm planning on throwing that post unless the defender gets a good drop. And and that's all that, I mean, it makes it sound quarterbacking can be very complex, and certainly this is a pressure-filled moment, but you have to think, those are the 3 things all you have to think about. Like, once you've identified the defense and you've done your homework pre-snap, you're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, I know, and really it's just about the placement of that safety. And if it's not there, I'm flipping my hips and I'm letting that ball go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I used to get so caught up in. Does he know which coverage it is? Does he know cover 2, cover 3, stubby, stump, all that stuff? Now, look at where space is. Look where the defenders are. Can you put the football away from them?
Yeah.
Like I've gotten less dogmatic, so to speak, to quote Seth Galina on that. And here, the middle of the field is open. And like you walked through, like he should know you've got an opportunity here, unless they run sort of a Tampa 2 and that linebacker just sprints backwards.
Right. Let's see Brian Urlacher. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it's Derek Brooks, sure, you might want to worry about it, but he's not. He sits down, throw it in the middle of the field.
Yeah. And I think it's the nice thing is like football. I hear Emery say football is simple. Well, I like to laugh when he says it because part of me is like, I love Emery and I think it's not that simple. But at the same time, it is simple in some regards. Yeah. It's like Mark is as adept as anyone I know at talking about coverage. He and Seth and guys like that. And Coach Vass, who has a great podcast that we should plug.
Absolutely.
And the great work that he does, you should follow him on Twitter if you really want to learn more about the X's and O's of the game. But at the same time, it's like all that complexity is important to understand maybe the context of what's going on. But at the end of the day, if you want to just understand what it is that a quarterback should be doing to think of things in a clear way where they don't get lost in the trees, and that they can see the whole forest, it's about looking at the leverage in the space.
Yep. I mean, football is a complex game, but there are moments when you don't have to make it tougher than it needs to be.
Yes.
And I think this is one of those moments. Here, this is my final play on him, and this is the play that I will have seared into my brain. I talk about it on every show I go on. This Mills concept off of the half roll against North Alabama, where he throws the post route in the middle of the field. And again, you can understand why he throws it. You see that safety down. He can throw the post route over the top. But I see that dig route in the middle of the field. And I see that dig route sort of breaking open. And I wonder, what is the easier throw to make at a more consistent, repeatable level at the National Football League? And I see that dig route once that safety turns his back to bail deep. And again, this is the sort of balance that you're going to have to do with Zach Wilson, because he's an aggressive quarterback, and we do like that about him. But which is more consistently completed in the NFL?
Yep. And which one, and to me, it comes down to, this is why I kind of nitpick on him a lot, is that which one is going to put a defense more in a bind on a routine basis if you complete it? Because if they at some point, they're not going to think that you're ever going to throw this route if you don't throw it here. Like, to me, I can see NFL defenses saying, this guy doesn't throw in the middle of the field. This guy's not going to do it. If you just guard the deep part of the field, and he's going to self-destruct, because he's not going to make that intermediate throw, that vertical throw, or deliver it accurately. And as a result, he could have moved the chain on us and also forced us to respect this route a lot more. And now we can just take away the deep shots and make him earn it in a more incremental fashion. And he's just not going to do that well, or at least as well.
And this is where you get sort of into the scheme fit piece with him, because everybody has said, look, he's going to the New York Jets, the outside zone, boot action. He ran a ton of it. You see some of it here. But as Ben Solak pointed out in a piece about him, I sort of cribbed from something I did. That offense is designed to create some of those over route throws, those dig routes in the middle of the field. And if he's not throwing them now, just how good of a scheme fit is he for that offense?
Yeah. And then, the counter I would say for that is that with a offense here, like this type of play, he's setting up at one setup point, and it's just designed to set up and statically look at the route with these openings. But if he's rolling out, just kind of like with Josh Allen, I would say, with all these levels of receivers working across the field, you get multiple windows of targets. So if you miss one, you're going to see the next. And you're going to have more opportunities, as opposed to, say, when Matt Ryan in the Roddy White, Julio Jones era, where he had to scan the whole field and he really only had one window for 2 out of the 3 or 3 out of the 4 routes, and had to be on time with it and hit it in a very tight window, which to me is a more difficult form of quarterbacking from a perspective of identifying windows of opportunity. Whereas, with the being able to throw, move to half the field, and start rolling to half the field and having maybe 3 windows per receiver to be able to throw to, that gives you more opportunities for success and fewer for failure. So that might be the reason, but I love what Ben's saying there. I mean, I think it's a salient point, and the one that you just relayed as well, is that, on a play like this, and also some of the other plays, if it's really bad for him, if he really doesn't adjust, it's going to be like, well, he didn't do it before in college, and even now you have him on the move, it's not working. That could be the ultimate failure, bad, low point for him. The intermediate idea would be he'll adjust once he's rolling out, but yeah.
And maybe that's what the Jets, if they do indeed draft him at 2, maybe that's what they're going to do with him. I mean, maybe that's the idea. And okay.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're probably not going to go through all these plays. We're halfway
Right.
through the show, and a lot of them were plays that Mark had too, because we just like, okay, Mark, pick some plays. I said, okay,
Yep.
I'll pick some plays, and then of course we have overlap. So, but we're going to look through some of these and talk about what we see. And this is an example of him, rolling out right here and having multiple windows of opportunity and being able to throw on the move and find a receiver in the middle of the field.
Yep.
You
I
know.
mean, it's a great throw on the move. Why is he bailing the pocket?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because right here, there's no need to.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a design, but you don't see, when you look at this, let's look at it. Is this a design play? Looks to me he's bailing right away. It doesn't look like it's a design rollout here.
Now, I mean, maybe he's thinking because of the situation, late first half winding down, he feels like he's going to do that. But I'm not so sure. I
Yeah.
mean, you're actually wasting more time by rolling out than just stepping back there and throwing that hitch to the left, which he could have probably thrown right away.
Yeah. Now, and this was a logical version of him doing this
Yeah.
in terms of like the throw, like the decision once he's out here and we're past whether he should have been out here. Once he sees number 2 here, he has the room to make this
Yep.
throw, and he has the arm talent to be able to do it as well.
I mean, it's as far as pure throws go, it's a fantastic throw.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so this is a common thing I see with him,
Yeah.
which is his short game, I think, is a little below average right now for a quarterback. And you can just see here, I mean, this one's a little, it's often behind the receiver or a little too high or too low. And it also illustrates a mechanical point that, again, we can't judge everybody by Tom Brady's mechanics or another quarterback's mechanics. But I just wonder, Mark, when I watch him play, that front leg locks out a little bit
Yeah.
on a regular basis. And it seems to me it contributes to either him sailing short throws and sinking intermediate to vertical throws.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you usually see with taller quarterbacks. Your Tyree Jacksons, even Deshaun Kaiser had it a bit, locking out that front leg. But, he's not as tall as those guys, but it does impact the release point. It causes you to make throws high. Steve Axman, teaching quarterback passing mechanics, I quote from that all the time on this front leg lock issue, and it contributes to high throws. And I think you see that here. The other thing is, look, this is mesh wheel from the running back.
Yep.
You get zone coverage. Why are you going so quickly to the running back?
Yeah, exactly.
Like the corner's sitting there waiting for this.
Yep.
Like you've got that, the receiver on the right is probably going to be running a dig, something in the second and third level window. You can get that behind the linebackers in front of the safeties, perhaps a throw in the middle of the field. But instead, even if he completes this on 1st and 10, what's going to happen to his running back?
Exactly. And that's another common issue with it. And I'm so glad you brought this up. That's another common issue with him because when you watch him play, and often it happens even in games where BYU isn't in a close game, he throws some hospital balls. He throws some balls that just really hangs his receivers out to dry that are unnecessary and maybe not the most logical choices. And I wonder, and again, this is just me, probably playing my version of big media hot take host here. Okay. And this is about as far as I'll go with it.
As far as you go, yeah.
But when I was on with Rick Saratella, he said that he asked a bunch of BYU players over the past couple of years when he would go visit, who would you take with you to the NFL as a teammate? And not a single one of them answered their quarterback.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when I see a play like this, where it's like, all right, you missed these open options. You hung this player out to dry. You hang some other players out to dry. Maybe they're like, we like Zach Wilson, but we don't love Zach Wilson from the standpoint as a quarterback. And I don't know, but it's an interesting thought that if your leader of your team is usually your quarterback is the main dude that everyone talks about on your team, in the media. And then apparently, at least to the people Rick asked, and it's not like Rick asked every single player, but he said he asked over 20 players. And of those 20 players, not a single one of them mentioned Zach Wilson as the guy that they would bring with them to the NFL to be on their team with them.
That's something.
Yeah, so it's interesting. All right, and this is another of the leg lockout issue. I mean, I think he completes the pass here, but again, I just wanted to show the other example of what happens when you lock that leg out and you throw deeper down the field and the ball's low and you've got a wide open receiver here.
Yeah.
Who you just kind of have to force him to the ground. But I like that he hangs in the pocket on this one.
Doesn't bail on this one. You can see other moments where he might.
Yeah.
He's got late pressure. Doesn't impact him too much.
He knows where he wants to go. Yep. He knows he's got to get it past the chains here on 3rd and 8. So, again, these are plays that you're not going, what is this guy even doing on an NFL field? Absolutely, right. He's an NFL caliber quarterback.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no one's saying that. I definitely haven't said that. You've heard me on Jets podcast in the past 2 weeks. He's a good fit for what the Jets are looking for. I just question whether he's the best fit for what the Jets could be looking for.
Right.
So there you go. You've got that. Let's see. What about this particular play? Let's see if this is one. Oh, the arm angle. The nice arm angle here, you can see the creativity, and that's another thing people will compare to Mahomes because they'll see the underhand throws and the shovel passes and these little off angle throws. It's just that the degree of difficulty of when he uses these aren't nowhere close to what Mahomes does with those types of throws. These are creative.
That one's a tough one, though. I mean,
yeah, true.
Because you've got collapse in pocket. Like some of it is, it's like, okay, well, you didn't really need to do that. This one's a little bit impressive, but I do like the subtle, quiet pocket feed here.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of his pocket management, but this is a good example. If you're somebody that likes his pocket management, this is a play to sort of point to because he's quieter, he's not exaggerated, doesn't bail, slides and creates. So, I mean, it's a nice, nifty little play.
Yeah, and it's promising to see that he is capable of making, smaller maneuvers in the pocket. And to me, again, this is what reminds me of Manziel. This is the Manziel end of the spectrum where Mahomes is on the wilder end. But this is you're right, this is a good throw. It's not an easy one for sure. All right. This is one that I wanted to show because this is what reminds me of Baker Mayfield. Now you've got pressure climbing in the pocket. He does a good job here of getting the ball out. He seems to be calm with that, but the ball's just not where it needs to be. Like, to me, this is nitpicky stuff, but to me, I look at it this way, and I always explain it this way. When Mike Holmgren tells Joe Montana, great throw to Jerry Rice in this practice, and Bill Walsh pulls Holmgren aside and schools him on what a pinpoint pass is.
Right.
I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to use what Bill Walsh taught Mike Holmgren. That's the standard. Well, the standard is he should be leading this receiver a little bit more. And this ball's a little too far in and even to the back shoulder a bit. And that gives that trailing defender a chance to really defend that pass a little bit more and get more of his frame and hands on where the ball is near and disrupts this throw.
Yep.
And again, it's nitpicky, but sometimes it comes down to these plays. And if the best quarterbacks more often than not are leading to that front shoulder.
Yep.
So it's not a bad play. It's just not the optimal play.
Right.
And he had optimal time and situation to place this ball. All right. Here we are again. And I have to say, after I put this together, I got a chance before our show to watch JT O'Sullivan talking about him for the first time.
Yeah.
And this kind of comes to his point. If you've seen JT O'Sullivan's work, obviously, I'm sure you have. It's great.
Yeah.
This is an accurate throw? Yes. Is it an impressive opposite field throw for a completion? Yes. Is it a more impressive catch than the throw? Oh, it's not a completion. That's right. But is it more an impressive, attempt for a catch? Yes, because
his receivers, I think, did a lot to help improve his draft stock. Yes. Because there are a number of throws, and like I say, the highlight reel package is going to be played when he gets picked. You see, like that UCF bowl game,
Yeah.
some of the like splash throws, they were really better catches than anything else, or great adjustments by receivers. And that's not really to take away from Zach Wilson, but it's just, again, this is a good throw, but it's not a great throw.
Yeah. It's a contested catch when it could be a wide open delivery,
Yeah.
and that's what you're looking. And this is a consistent part of his game in that respect. So yeah, and I'm quietly a fan of Dax Milne.
Oh, yeah.
I think that kid could be has a little Keenan McCardell in his game too. That's
I
another.
can see that.
Yeah, that a really nice possession, plus possession receiver. Here's another one wide open, locks out that leg.
Yep.
And
Throws high.
yeah, and I just I show a lot of these because it just shows up a lot to me is when I see that leg lock and I see what happens with the throws and they're makeable throws. This is one of those plays that I look at and go, I love the placement.
Yep.
I don't necessarily love the decision. And it's because let's see if we can get to when I see the placement of the safety, I just see a lot of these opposite hash throws where I feel like there's a line between being confident about being able to make the throw and being arrogant about not respecting the defender's position on the
Right.
play. And I worry that in the NFL, these cornerbacks are going to jump a lot of these routes.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's what this defender is trying to get him to make the perfect throw here.
Yeah.
And he does it here. But there's a difference between Saturdays and Sundays.
Yes. And I just worry that's where my worry point is probably more than anything in terms of, of him as a player is that when I see this, I think it doesn't project well for me because I think that he has no I love that he has no hesitation, but I hate the situation he has no hesitation in to do this.
Yeah.
And I just want, I like aggression, but this is one area where I think it has to get better. His play action game is always nice. That's going to be a nice asset to his game here. This is another one where the placement of the throw isn't good. I think that this is one where, it's a little bit more back shoulder. The defender's able to, cut that off. And again, is that the best throw when you have, the receiver working across on the over at the hash? I know it's against the grain, but we just saw him make one against the grain in Coastal Carolina that was very similar and wide open like this.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if I trust his game on the level of when he's outside the pocket making decisions like these.
Yeah, I think at some level he might have been worried there was a defender sort of lurking there.
Like this
A guy that comes in. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe he's worried about that, but still, I mean, it's that idea that when he gets on the move, these concepts that are designed to attack the middle of the field, he's not taking those throws. He's pushing everything outside the numbers.
Yeah.
Which you start getting to the NFL, you think about like it's the sort of reverse of what Rex Ryan would do to Tom Brady. He would take away the middle of the field and just say, look, Tom, if you're going to beat us, you have to throw outside the numbers tonight to do it. You can take away parts of the field.
Yeah. And we're going to see probably his rookie year, second year, maybe even third year, you're going to see lots of people who are going to get on Twitter and say, see how this isn't a problem? He made this throw. And then the next week you're going to say, see how this is a problem? He couldn't complete this throw. And it's going to be filled with those types of things depending on how you look at it with him. And what's going to be important is how the NFL, what happens with some of those types of plays. But here we go. I believe this was another play. I just wasn't crazy about the placement. Again, just back shoulder with a defender over the top.
Yeah.
And again, he makes his throw, gets away with it. But in the NFL, I just think these cornerbacks are going to be licking their chops for plays like this.
Oh, absolutely.
And can he correct it? If he does, his career will be off and running. If he can't, that's where he gets stalled. I just love the touch of this play. I just really, really enjoyed kind of the sweet feet, the light, the ability to go to your left and just kind of put that ball where it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful throw. And I love, again, how he sort of flips the hips. because that's, you know, a tougher throw to make going to your left there as a right-handed quarterback, but flips the hip so we can get enough on it. Really nice ball.
Yeah. All right. This. Oh, okay. Is this it? No, this isn't it. This is a different play. Now you see a lot of these in his game where, on the one hand, you can say I like that he's confident to say, "Let me see if I can draw the penalty."
Yeah.
But on the other end of the spectrum, you go, "Well, couldn't you have thrown this ball so that the receiver
The
could
penalty
catch
wasn't
it?"
needed. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a lot of them. I think there's going to be a lot of analysts who, like Zach Wilson, will look at this play and say he's drawing the penalty. You know,
Yeah.
he identified the opportunity to force the interference play. But then there's going to be others who look at this and say the receiver had a step. Why can't you power this if you have the big arm and lead him downfield?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there we go on that. Nice little pump fake. And this is another good example where I thought it would be worth talking about, where people might go, people who were critical of the last play like I was,
Yeah.
you know, you can tend to be, as an evaluator, overly critical because you can look at a play like this and go, well, he didn't lead him again. He made him slow down. And that's true. But at the same time, when you're open by that much,
Get it on him.
yeah, just get it to him. That's the point, and he does that. So I'm not dinging him for accuracy on this play. And I wanted to show these back to back because I think it's instructive from an evaluation perspective that if you didn't like he led him here, you don't want to go overboard and go, oh, I learned a new concept. So now I'm looking at this as an evaluator, and I'm going to
throw at him by 5 yards, and you're missing a chance for a touchdown.
Exactly. This is an example that when you've got a defender beat that much, that's the nuance of the craft, and that's why when you look at the stat tracking of players, that you want to know who the guy is that's doing your tracking for your data and how they view these things, because you can have 20 guys doing stat tracking, and on these two plays, you're going to get a huge amount of variation with how you define this. And that's why I'm always talking about it's important to kind of define your process and understand the realms of what it is to look for here, because these are two plays where easily some very good evaluators and people who understand football will have a very different idea of what is accurate or what's a good decision, what's pinpoint and what's not. And I would literally say, where is it here? That this was not the greatest decision. It's not the optimal decision, but it's a decent decision. Mm-hmm. And that this play, I would say, was an optimal or close to an optimal decision. Like, if he hit him pinpoint and let him down the field, I'd say it's the best possible outcome. Right. But to me, this is not far from that. I would even put it as equal to it in realism of what you're expecting from a quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, you've talked about it before when you get downfield, like general accuracy, you don't want to miss opportunities for plays like that because you were trying to do too much.
And I would grade that play as a pinpoint accurate throw. Even though it was not technically a pinpoint accurate throw, I would grade it as such because the spirit of this play is just get it to him. He's not being tightly covered. Let's make sure we go for the safe thing. And to me, that's where I'm at with it. Now, if it were, 4th down and, 38 seconds left in the game, or let's say 38 seconds left in the game, would I prefer he try and hit the mark so that he doesn't slow down?
Guaranteed touchdown,
Yeah, I would probably hope for that a little bit more. But then again, you got to know who your receiver is too and what he can do. If it's Tyreek Hill, just underthrow it.
Just get it to him.
Sterling Shepard, different story. Here's that thing where the climb I like, but his ability to kind of decelerate and slow down just isn't there yet.
Yeah.
Like, he has to fix when he resets, because he's then kind of throwing with so much momentum and he's a little wild with his throws. And this is a common thing I see with him. It's just a little too wild, and then you've got underneath coverage too.
Yeah, I mean, I like the climb. I like everything till like
here.
what, the 38-yard line or so.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to see him do a little bit better job of like what we saw earlier, which is the subtle, softer, quieter movements. You've got to be violent here to climb in response to that pressure, but then settle, gather, and throw.
Yeah. This is a perfect example if you are looking at any player, whether it's whatever position, any position, it's more valuable about how fast a player can stop than how fast they can start.
Yeah.
And this is an example of a guy who never stopped.
Yep.
I showed that again. All right, fine. Let's see if we can. Okay, moving forward. Beautiful throw.
Yep. Absolutely beautiful throw.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, again, you see the upside in his game, and it's a late turn and throw, which you
Yep.
like too. That's another play here on this
Yeah,
one.
but again, the even on that one too, the eyes on the middle of the field, both of those throws, late turn, late throw, perfect placement. I like this one. Put it up high. Let your guys go get it.
Yeah. This is the play I wanted to talk with you about because I think a lot of people look at this play and they're like, I don't like it. But I kind of get it. I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen people look at this play and they say, well, he should have hung in the pocket, but he bails too early and he turns his back to the coverage, and now he's got to reset and find a guy, and he makes a terrific throw in terms of where he has to place it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's still risky.
Yeah, I mean it's still risky as all get out.
Yeah. And and I wouldn't necessarily say it's a great decision, but you know where he knows where he wants to go, and I think he knew what he had here in terms
Yeah.
of the height advantage, and he knew his player. So I like that he knows his personnel, knows how he should place it. And to me, I thought this was an excellent anticipation that the pocket was going to break down. He knew he had a running back on a defensive end.
Yep.
If I'm a quarterback and I know I have a running back on a defensive end, unless it's Edgerrin James quality type of blocker on a defensive end, I'm getting ready to find my way somewhere else. If I don't think anything's open here, and I'm right about it not being open on that side. So to me, once he sees the flash of the defender and he knows that it's a DE on a running back, yeah, I totally get the preemptive movement to turn and find your player and just deliver the one-on-one shot here.
Yeah. I get it. I like this one. And I've been critical of his pocket management, but I think this is an example of where he understood where the protections were strong and were not. And so he knew he had to get away from that. And he gave his guy a chance to make a play.
Yeah. And so, this is, I mean, there's certainly, you can see the upside with Wilson.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that he has the upside to be a good NFL starter, or at least a competent one.
Yeah.
These are the throws that he's famous for, that everybody, I joke that this is where he can be more frosting than cake, but these are good throws, and they are important throws in the lexicon of quarterbacking, and he does it under pressure. Oh, well, this isn't the one. This is the one.
This is the one here. This is a nice guy in your face, free rusher, drop it in, let him make the adjustment, give him space to work, keep it in bounds. But I really like that throw.
And he knows, you've got the double A gap pressure, you've got your safeties tight, in a too high look. Russell Wilson would do this at NC State, and so this is the type of thing that you look at and go, that's good read, that's good pre-snap, post-snap reaction, good execution. Here's the one where you go, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Like this looks like a sky hook from Kareem.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. You get the pressure in your face, you're trying to get it out.
Yeah.
This is one of those where sometimes, look, you're just going to learn to, all right, I'm just going to eat this.
Yeah.
Like nothing good can happen with me throwing this.
Exactly. And I think this is another example of that play where I know JT O'Sullivan talked about already, so we'll just say quickly, it's a good throw, but it's a contested throw.
Yeah. When it doesn't need to be.
Yeah. We've been through enough of those. There's the
Here's
flea
the
flicker.
Yep. You seen the overlap?
Yep. There's the climb, but again, kind of the wild child doesn't really decelerate well enough, and it is a deep throw. So I won't be too hard on that, except that he's placing it in a bracket right here.
Yep. And you see a route in the middle of the field with single coverage.
Yep. So, it's just important when you're evaluating, and I think that's why I love doing these shows, especially with Mark, is that when we do these blind, we show the overlap of plays we see, and we also begin to see a case where you can build where the positives are, because you see repeated positives, and then you see the repeated flaws, and what that's all about. And this is just another one where just throwing to the outside, and I don't know. I saw this from this angle, and when I see the defender right here,
yeah,
I don't even think he plays that great, but I think in the NFL this was another interceptable pass.
That's going the other way.
Yeah. Another one in the middle of the field where you're like, okay, what are you looking at?
Yeah, and doesn't even look for that other safety, let alone the guy that covers him.
Yeah. So
that safety just reads his eyes and breaks on. I remember that one.
Yeah. Another kind of contested look where you're like,
I want to say right now, Brett Rippon ran that play when he was a freshman at Boise State and threw it for a touchdown. That fake fumble on fourth down.
Yeah, with this nice little low play fake thing right here.
Yep.
Yep. We got to get a Brett Rippon reference.
Yeah, we're contractually obligated to mention Brett Rippon once a show.
Well, you got a better contract as a lawyer. I understand how, because you got a better contract with yours. I'm contractually obligated to talk about Chad Kelly. So,
I mean, these are the things we do.
Yes. Another one of those where it's just like, this is the other part of the short game, kind of rushes the throw. I understand there's pressure there, but it's like nowhere near the receiver on the wide route.
You get big Peyton Turner in your face. I get it.
Yeah. Another one where it's like, yeah, he makes the play, but all right. Like this could easily be a bad outcome.
The other way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bad outcome anyway.
Yeah. It could be disastrous.
Yeah.
Great catch.
Yep. Absolutely fantastic catch.
Yep. Let me see let's show it again. There we go. But once again, contested play that didn't need to be.
Yep.
This is another one where you see the leg locked out, and it may need to be low when you look at this. So I'm not like as bad on this one as some of the others, but you could see where it didn't need to be as difficult as this.
Yeah. I mean, he could get this a little bit more downfield. I understand why he put it there. Yeah. Because you've got that safety coming over, so you want to protect your guy. But the leg lockout is something you're seeing more and more of.
Yeah, this died. This ball died. Like, it meant to be low, but not that low. Not for a tight end. I mean, come on. I'm sure that, so I'm wondering if they asked this tight end that question.
Yeah, maybe.
but we'll see. I mean, it was a great play on his part. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
There's that leg lockout once again. There's a high throw that didn't need to be there. So these kinds of things just kind of get me here. Again, back shoulder on a play. I'd love to see a little bit more front shoulder, nitpicking, but the location of the defender, and these are the plays that when I refer, he gets away with these a lot more than he should. You're even seeing here, he just doesn't respect this defender's position. And I know it's a tough one because the way that we're going to see the highlight here with the box in the box from the last play, but you see the defender's position over the top to the inside, and it's just like, I'm sure he feels like I got the guy's back turned to me, but this is kind of, the defender's able to turn back and look and make the adjustment.
Yeah, and it's like JT O'Sullivan talked about. Like when you see the back of the defender, all he can really defend is his frame. He kind of puts it on his frame.
Yeah. Just there's another more wild child stuff.
Yep. I mean, the escape and everything is fantastic,
Yeah.
but you almost gave the football away.
Yeah.
It's 3rd and 8. You're in plus territory. Like you might be going for it on 4th down anyway.
Yeah. The positive of these outcomes that we show over and over again is that, Josh Allen did some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Worse oftentimes. Yeah. And we see how Josh Allen wound up as a player and what he's been able to do really in terms of his development trajectory the past 2 years. This is another one. The defender doesn't fall down.
Yep.
Defender stumbles right there. And this is a completion he got away with that should have been an interception. Should have been a touchdown. Should have let him. Yeah. So there you have it. That is our film room for the day.
Yeah.
Josh, Zach Wilson.
I do like some of what he does. I do. It's just there are things that he was able to do at BYU that he won't be able to do at the next level. And will he be able to find that balance? And again, we bring up Mahomes a lot. We knew that Mahomes was going to be able to get away with some of the stuff he did at Texas Tech because the understand that he had of leverage, the understand that he had of the arm talent that he had. You didn't see a lot of underthrows from Patrick Mahomes that you're seeing with Zach Wilson that left plays on the board, left plays on the field. So I do think that he's going to be good, but it might not be the easy, immediate transition we saw from Mahomes. It might be more of a developmental learning curve with him as he tries to strike that balance going forward.
Yeah, and listen, if his outcome is Baker Mayfield and they put a good team around him, look, Baker Mayfield's on the verge of a Super Bowl, at this point. And I may not be the biggest fan of Baker Mayfield's game, but certainly I'm rooting for him to continue to improve. And I think that you've seen moments that if you give him enough support, he can play within himself and make big plays by playing within himself. And I think that Zach Wilson has that potential as well. So is he have potential starter upside? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to me, I just look at it and I go, okay. So if I'm looking at quarterbacks and I look at, I'm looking at their flaws and what's correctable and also their upside and what's really exploitable. Justin Fields is way up there. Trevor Lawrence is a lock. Trey Lance, to me, is way up there as well. I'm more of a Mac Jones guy. We're gonna talk about Mac Jones next week in our next film room, and that should be a fun conversation. Even though he's definitely a Baker. But I, there's some Bakers. We've often been down on Bakers, but we may have an opportunity to kind of talk about some of the good stuff there with that. And I happen to like Davis Mills to the extent that he doesn't show the upside that Zach Wilson shows right now, but I think that his game is kind of a blank canvas with not a lot of negatives to it, that I think that there's more opportunity to color it in a way where he'll match with a team, and maybe in 2 to 3 years we're looking at him and going, that's pretty good. So that's, and again, the rankings are different than scores. All these guys I have are scored as potential starters. Some just more potential than others.
Right.
Yeah.
I think with Wilson, I think what kind of happened throughout this draft cycle is he became the it thing to a level that maybe wasn't quite commensurate with everything. I do think, like you said, he's somebody that I think most teams would start early week one, like, okay, like I'm okay with that. But I do think there need to be more reasoned expectations here. I do think that there are aspects to his game that, while good, need to be refined, need to be tamed down, need to be fixed. I don't think he's a clean prospect. I think that there are issues that we highlighted today that will be problems for him at the next level.
How would you
And
how would you classify that versus, say, contrast that to what you thought of Josh Herbert heading in and what happened with Josh Herbert this year?
it's different because with Herbert, a lot of it was true projection because of that Oregon offense. And I think if you saw you could find highlights of examples of Herbert understanding leverage and then attacking it in a way that I think Wilson is trying to do, but might not be as good at yet. Like I think of some throws that Herbert made while he was at Oregon that he turned into back shoulder throws, and there was a distinct reason to do that, not a he missed on a throw that became a contested catch situation. It was the leverage and then the placement of the safety in the middle of the field made it such that putting that go route along the back shoulder made a lot more sense. And so I think I was somebody that kind of liked Herbert, I think a little bit more than consensus.
You did.
But when I look at Wilson, I would almost, if I were to just sit down and grade them, I would have Wilson slightly above Herbert just because, there's some other stuff that Wilson does that I think Herbert is still getting a feel for. But I think they're in that sort of similar tier for me.
This is going to be such a fascinating draft class and quarterback class for us to really see how it develops down the line. And
Yeah.
that's what makes this a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, because everything we said today, it's all going to come down to what Zach Wilson does. I mean, more than anything else, and how his coaches sort of look at him and coach him and develop him. I do think that, that like outside zone, wide zone, Mike LaFleur offense we expect. Like, I think it fits schematically for him because he's got some familiarity with it. But I don't think it's the clean one-to-one that people think it is. Like, I think there are aspects to it that he's going to have to learn, because if he's going to continually try to take either the post route or the route in the flat and ignore the middle of the field, teams will play three high. We'll keep the safety deep, take away that post, make sure that curl flat defender gets to that route, and we'll take it away. Like, he's going to have to adapt to that. Otherwise, he's going to struggle.
Where would you, is there another offense that you'd prefer to see him in if you had a chance? Even if you could say it also with whether it means him playing right away or getting more time to sit and watch.
Interestingly enough, you bring up Herbert, and I think that sort of spread vertical offense is something that he's sort of suited for. I think Arthur Smith is going to run something similar to that in Atlanta, with whether it's Matt Ryan or quarterback to be named later. I think Denver, Pat Shurmur, has done a good job at implementing stuff like that. And I think he's done a pretty good job at scheming that first read open too. And so I think Denver would fit as well. I think he's pretty scheme diverse. I don't have a situation where I'm like, no, he can't run that, or that would be tougher for him than a different offense. I think you look at the guy we're going to talk about Monday, Jones. I think Jones is a bit more scheme dependent. I do think that there are different offenses that he can run. I don't think he's like Shanahan or bust, but I do think that Wilson could pretty much fit anywhere.
If you're listening, I want you to look at Mark's face real quick as I say this. Mac Jones in New England.
I know. I mean, I get it.
Okay.
I get it. I understand it. Mac Jones could certainly run New England's offense. Okay. And I do think that if Mac Jones is on the board at 15, like Mac Jones to New England could very well happen. I do think, an offense that traditionally during the Brady run was predicated on quick decision-making, option routes, accuracy in the short and intermediate areas of the field, and giving your receivers opportunity to get yardage after the catch. That's Mac Jones.
I love it. I think it would be great, but that's just me. But listen, I've finished abusing Mark enough for this past hour, and he doesn't deserve that kind of abuse. So, Mark, can you please tell everybody what you've got going on and how they can find you without the jokester in the room?
No, Matt. This is always a blast, man. You know I love this stuff. I live for this time of year. You can follow me on the Steakum app. at Mark Schofield. Touchdown Wire, USA Today, Matt. I just said Matt Walden. Doug Farrar and I are doing our top 11 by position. I just done and dusted my final position group, the cornerback position.
Nice.
JC Horn, Patrick Surtain are my top two guys. Surtain 1, JC Horn 2, but very interesting class, including the guy that actually dragged out a comparison to Mark McElhannon, who was a safety at Wesleyan University when I played. I pulled out a Division III comp for a player in this draft class because it's the end of draft cycle and we're all tired. That's why.
Well, listen, you can't follow anybody better than Mark Schofield. And
well, you absolutely can, but I'd like to be considered in the mix.
No, you can't. I'm sorry. We're not listening. Again, I get to abuse you a little bit. We cannot listen. Do not listen to Mark about that. You can't find anybody better than Mark Schofield on this app. I'm just telling you, on Twitter and with what we do here. Absolutely love him to death. Love the work that he does. Have tremendous respect for how he approaches the game. He's a true student of the game, and that shows up in how he teaches the game. And if anyone's listening to this, who if I'm happen to have the opportunity to be able to pull the ball up for the lottery for media people, you're an idiot if you don't hire Mark Schofield. I'll just put it to you that way. Absolutely.
Mighty kind, my friend. I appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, no, I mean it, and I should probably say it earlier in the show. So now that I'm thinking about it, but I'm an idiot. So there we go. So for the fact
that's why we love each other, Matt.
Exactly. For two football idiots, we are signing off, and we appreciate you listening. Of course, the RSP pre-draft, where basically most of my brain power goes during the year, is available for $21.95 at mattwaldmanrsp.com. You can listen to the podcast, Matt Waldman's RSP Cast, and if you're not sick of us yet, we'll be on next week with Mac Jones, and maybe that week too we'll get Russ Landy on, and we can talk about all these quarterbacks and see what Russ did with his accuracy matrix. Thanks, guys, and good day.